5 total witnesses called by the defense, all with one underlying theme. Each and every one of the 5 have said that it was George Zimmerman screaming for help. Will that jury believe that because they've all had some relationship, friends or family?
Well, one of the considerations that will be told to the jurors is, did the witness have some interest in how the case should be decided? Certainly the state would argue good friends or best friends have an interest, and it'll be for the jury to sort that out.
6th witness being called by the defense. Let's go back to courtroom 5D.
You may proceed.
Thank you. Morning, ma'am. How are you?
Good morning.
State your name, please.
Leeanne Benjamin.
Okay. And are you married?
Yes, I am.
To whom?
John Donnelly.
Okay. And do you know George Zimmerman?
Yes, I do.
And if you would, tell the jury how long you've known him.
I think I met George for the first time either at the end of 2002 or early in 2003.
And if you would briefly tell the jury what the circumstances of that.
I own and operate a local real estate business, and George was working for a local insurance company, and I used to refer my customers over to him, so I got to know him that way.
Would a characterization of it as a business friendship be appropriate?
Yes, it started out as a business relationship.
Okay. And was that, have you maintained then a friendship sort of continuously since back in 2002?
Yes.
And if you would just tell the jury sort of the high points of that, how it happened and how it progressed.
Well,
and I'm sorry, do you know Shelley Zimmerman as well?
Yes, I do.
And when I have you talk to the jury about the relationship, is it one that grew with you and your husband and George Zimmerman and his wife?
Yes.
Okay. So as you're going through this, you're talking about sort of the relationship that grew between the 4 of you?
Yes.
Okay, if you would.
Mostly, it started out, though, just with George.
Okay.
I want to object to not using the surname.
One thing that I didn't talk to you about beforehand, in a courtroom, we have to be very careful with the record. So we need to use full names. So even though he may be known to you more familiarly, if you would use his entire name, George Zimmerman or Mr. Zimmerman, I would appreciate it, as would the court.
Okay.
Okay. So if you would, using his name, tell us.
Well, I first met George Zimmerman through the real estate business that I was doing, and I would refer my customers to the company he was working with. And we got to know each other with the business relationship that way first. And my office is in the same building where his office was. And we kept a refrigerator there and offered people to come for soda or something. And Mr. Zimmerman did that on numerous occasions. Then he began asking me questions about business. How do you start a business? What's involved? What does it take to get going? Things like that. So I took more interest in him then too because of that. He seemed to have a very keen interest in business and how to start one up.
Okay. And then did that friendship progress? Are we now talking about the 2002, 3, 4 period of time?
Yes, it did. And we did things more socially. We would go out to lunch or to dinner. And about that time, a mutual friend was interested in getting into politics in the city of Lake Mary. And my husband and I were helping him on his campaign. And Mr. Zimmerman was also interested in the political aspects. And then we served on the campaign together.
So was that sort of another connection that you and your husband and George Zimmerman and Shelley Zimmerman had through their work on the campaign?
Yes.
Okay. And then just sort of move forward, get us closer towards your relationship over the last few years.
Well, the relationship of the last few years has been a little more intermittent, but when you have a good friend and you don't get to see them constantly, I think everyone has relationships like that where you don't talk for a while, but when you see each other, it's like you pick up where you left off. And it was very comfortable. My dad moved in with us and was ill and in the hospital a lot.
Did that take then a lot of your focus away from friendships and focused on your dad?
Yes.
Okay. Did the friendship then sort of reemerge or come back once this event happened with Mr. Zimmerman?
Actually, before.
Okay.
My husband and I recognized that Mr. Zimmerman had a strong interest in business, and with his age at the time, we encouraged him to potentially go to college. We wanted him to consider that because at least I felt there would be time later to do a business. So when I learned that he was interested in school and going back to school, then the friendship picked up more again then.
And was that when he had gone to Seminole State College and was in legal studies?
Yes.
Did you encourage that sort of maneuver towards education?
Yes. And my background before real estate was in teaching. So education is a love that I have. And I did a lot of volunteer work with respect to that. And I realized that George was tutoring some young children, and I encouraged that, and I was very proud of him for that.
Okay. And leading us up to sort of what happened that brings us all here today, you knew what happened with Mr. Zimmerman being involved in a shooting?
I do now, but I didn't at the time. I did not hear about it or notice the news because my dad was having a very difficult time medically, and I was spending a lot of time with him. So I was not paying attention a lot.
At some point along the way between February 26th and today, though, you became aware of what Mrs. Zimmerman is going through with his second-degree murder charges here?
Yes. He called me, and we spoke on the telephone for quite some time. I was not aware when he had called me that the event had happened, and I was not aware of any of the conditions or surroundings. So when we spoke on the phone, I spoke to him as my friend, and we just talked.
Okay. And do you recall approximately when that first conversation occurred?
Well,
and I'll premise it with this. The asking of a question doesn't suggest there has to be an answer.
yes,
So
I don't
in fact,
know.
If you don't know, and that's okay, if you can give us the year, the season, or not.
It was within a couple weeks.
After the event?
After the event.
Okay.
He had tried to call me before that, and I said, please excuse me, but I'm taking care of my dad, so I couldn't talk. He tried, and then we finally did get to talk.
Okay. And at some point then, did the friendship sort of reemerge again because of what Mrs. Zimmerman was going through?
Yes.
And I know from other sources that you have helped Mrs. Zimmerman out generally. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Explain to the jury about that.
Well, it was very important to me to offer my support to him, and I wanted to do what I could to help him. Mostly we just talked.
Mm-hmm. Did you, have you and your husband even helped him out financially?
Yes.
And explain to the jury about that, if you would.
My husband noticed his website and donated some money. We have on occasion taken them some food. And, my husband took him down to Men's Warehouse and got him some clothes.
And that was in preparation of the trial, correct?
Correct.
He's probably wearing one of the jackets right now.
Yes, I think so.
Would that connection to the Zimmerman family affect how you testify here today at all?
I don't think so. I don't believe so, because I just believe in telling what I know.
Okay. There has been a lot made about a 911 call to a woman we now know as Miss Lauer. Have you ever had an opportunity to listen to that phone call?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Do you have an opinion as to whose voice it is that you hear in the background?
Yes, I do.
Okay, I'm going to play it for you, and then tell me, first of all, if you want me to replay it, if you need me to stop and go back, or whatever may need to be done, okay? I might have a moment, Your Honor.
Yes, you may.
Security is just taking its time.
911, do you need police, fire, medical?
Maybe both. I'm not sure. There's just someone screaming outside.
Okay, what's the address that they're near?
1211 Twin Trees Lane.
Twin Trees Lane. Is this in your Twin Lakes homes in Sanford?
Yes.
Okay, and is it a male or female?
It sounds like a male.
And you don't know why?
I don't know why. I think they're yelling help, but I don't know. Just send someone quick. Say,
Okay. Does he look hurt to you?
I can't see him. I don't want to go out there. I don't know what's going on. So they're sending him.
So you think he's yelling help?
Yes.
All right, what is your phone number?
Just there's gunshots.
You just
Have you listened to that before today?
Yes, I have.
Any reason for me to play any more of it or to
No.
go back over it?
No.
Do you have an opinion as to whose voice that is in the background?
Yes, I do.
And whose voice is it?
George Zimmerman's voice.
And how do you know that?
We've spent a lot of, or had an occasion to get together many times. I know his voice, but also when we were working on the political campaign, we were loud and waving signs and just kind of hooping it up. And so I know what his voice sounds like when he gets excited or loud.
I'm going to have a moment here.
Yes, you may.
No further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Thank you, Cross.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
You and your husband have contributed, I believe, $2,500 on behalf of the defendant, George Zimmerman, correct?
That's correct.
And then I think there was some additional money that was provided to him, I think 500 or 400, and then now you've mentioned clothes, et cetera. Is that correct?
I don't know about the amount. My husband
Deals with that?
deals with that.
And for the record, your husband's name is John Donnelly, is that correct?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
But you acknowledge that you and your husband have contributed
Yes.
to the defense fund, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Now, if I understand it correctly, there was a period of time that when he was younger, the defendant, George Zimmerman, you were close to him in terms of the business, and then your dad was sick, so for a period of time, you were focusing obviously on your dad.
Correct.
And then after he was involved in this, then you got caught up again, if I got that right?
No, before.
Right before, or?
No, several months prior.
Okay, so that would have been, if this happened in February, you're thinking December, or?
Yes.
Okay, December of 2011.
Yes.
But for a period of years, I guess you weren't keeping up with him, and then you got...
Oh, we were
were?
talking. We just didn't get together a lot.
Okay. And you mentioned that 911 call.
Yes.
Okay. The first time you heard it was already on the news in terms of what had happened?
Yes, I believe so, but I didn't hear it right away.
So you waited a few months, you think? This happened back in February of 2012, February 26th.
No, when I realized what had happened because of prior jury experience,
Right. My question,
I tried to not
so you
watch or listen or read about it.
So you heard about the shooting, you heard about Mr. Zimmerman being charged, then you listened to it on the radio, or was there a recording played, or how did you listen to it?
I think the first time I heard it, it was on TV.
Okay, and do you recall, was it like this year, 2013, or was it last year, 2012?
You know, I don't really know.
Okay. And I know you gave your deposition in May of this year. Do you think it was before your deposition?
Oh, yes.
So it was
Yes.
sometime before the deposition,
Yes.
but it could have been this year sometime?
It was probably this year sometime, but I'm thinking I may have heard it late last year. I just can't remember.
Sure, that's fine. And the occasion for you hearing it, was it over the news, or was a separate recording played for you?
I don't really know.
Okay.
I'm thinking the situation was that the TV was on in the background and I was in the kitchen.
Sure, okay. And did you hear the news? Was there a story about the George Zimmerman case, and then they played the recording? Or do you recall the situation, the circumstances on you hearing it?
I don't recall.
Okay, and if you don't remember something, as Mr. O'Mara said, it's perfectly all right to say you don't recall. We're just trying to make sure the jury understands the circumstances. I apologize, I shouldn't be speaking.
It was
It was on TV?
on TV.
Okay.
Probably related to a news.
Okay, so in other words, and you were watching TV and it just happened, or you were cooking and you heard it?
Right.
Okay. So my point, I guess, in terms of establishing a context in which you heard it, it wasn't just played out of the blue recording. There was some pretext or something to it, I'm assuming, right?
Correct.
George Zimmerman case, and so you knew it was related to this case, right? Is that correct?
I believe so.
Okay, all right. And then you heard it, what Mr. O'Mara just played for you.
Yes.
And then you heard it, you said a second time?
Yes.
Okay, and the second time you heard it, was it, again, the same type of situation?
Similar situation.
George Zimmerman, the charges against him, or whatever, a story about the case, and then they played the 911 call?
Yes.
Okay. Both times that you heard it, or have you heard it a third time too?
At the deposition.
You heard it in the deposition?
And then today.
Okay. So at the deposition, it was played for you in a recording, correct?
Yes.
Okay. But you had heard it prior to that in both times in the news,
Yes.
right? And one time you were cooking or doing something else. The second time were you actually watching TV and it came up?
No, I think I was probably cooking both times.
Okay. So both times it was kind of background noise.
Background.
But they said this is a George Zimmerman case, and then something else, and then you heard the recording.
Yes.
Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm assuming you've never heard Trayvon Martin's voice, correct, or have you?
No.
Okay. And obviously you mentioned you had heard George Zimmerman prior to hearing the recording, correct?
Yes, a lot.
And you had actually heard him before yelling like he did this time, crying for help, if that's his voice, assuming that's his voice.
Very similar. When I heard it, it was related to political campaign locally.
And I guess there was cries for help in that campaign?
No.
Okay. So it was just yelling?
Whooping it up.
Okay, whooping it up like, hey, or hooray, or something?
Yes.
Okay. And was it him just by himself yelling it up, or was it everybody in the campaign yelling it up?
It was all of it, but
Okay.
I also heard him too,
Sure.
specifically.
But I'm assuming everybody involved in the campaign was whooping it up, correct?
Yes.
It was pretty loud at that time?
Yes, it was.
Okay, all right. And so you believe that you've now, based on that, able to extrapolate or say that this is definitely George Zimmerman's voice, correct?
Definitely.
Okay. And the recording that you heard that Mr. O'Mara played for you, it is a continuous. In other words, you believe you hear him just continuously yelling for help, correct?
Yes.
Okay, there's no break. In other words, he just yells help, 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 or whatever words.
Well, there were some breaks in there
There
that
were?
I heard.
Okay.
Yes, while the 911 call was.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm talking about the yells for help as opposed to the other people. Do you understand what I'm asking you?
No.
Okay, I apologize. You're hearing the recording, the one you just heard.
Yes.
Do you hear yells for help?
Yes.
Okay, are they continuous yells for help?
Well, it's hard to tell because the person's voice who was making the call made it difficult.
Okay, you're saying there's somebody else speaking.
Yes.
Okay, and you don't recognize that voice, obviously?
No, I
Okay.
do not.
But the yells for help, you're continuous, other than the person breaking in saying something to the.
Sounds like they are, but it's very difficult for me to tell.
Okay, so it's difficult for you to really hear the voice, or?
No, I hear the voice.
Okay,
I hear the voice clearly.
sure. And since you've contributed on his behalf, you want to believe it's George Zimmerman, correct?
It is George
Okay,
Zimmerman.
and that's your opinion,
Yes,
and that's all you can testify about.
correct.
And did you have an occasion to discuss it with your husband too, in terms of what his opinion was about whether that was the voice or not?
We tried not to discuss this
Is that on purpose?
on purpose.
Okay. I gather when he contributed on behalf of the defendant, did he discuss that with you, or did he do that on his own?
He did that on his own.
Okay.
I was not in a discussion.
You found out about it after?
After the fact, and he said, I hope that's okay with you. And I said, yes,
Okay.
of course.
And you approved of it, of course?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't mean to imply he was doing something sneaky. Did you hear any other recordings in this case?
No, not to my recollection.
Okay. Did you hear any other recordings about his being George Zimmerman's call to the police that day?
No, I don't recall hearing that.
Is there any reason why, if you had heard the story, you don't know why?
No, because I was trying not to pay attention
On purpose?
on purpose. I was trying not, I know that the news was going to be covering it, and plus my work schedule, I'm not always home anyway.
Sure. Okay. If I play something for you, would you be able to recognize the voice that's on there, do you think?
I'll try.
Okay. You haven't heard that recording where he's calling the police,
I don't think so.
where there's profanity being used?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Unless
Oh,
you played it in a deposition, I don't.
Yeah, and that wasn't a trick question. I'm just asking you
Okay.
whether. May I approach you? Yes, ma'am. I'm going to play the whole thing, and then I'll play a certain part. For the record, it states 173.
Police Department line is being recorded, Sean. Hey, we've had some break-ins in my neighborhood, and there's a real suspicious guy. It's Retreat View Circle. The best address I can give you is 111 Retreat View Circle. This guy looks like he's up to no good, or he's on drugs or something. It's raining, and he's just walking around looking about.
Okay, and this guy, is he white, black, or Hispanic?
He looks black.
Did you see what he was wearing?
Yeah, a dark hoodie, like a gray hoodie, and either jeans or sweatpants and white tennis shoes. He's here now. He was just staring.
Oh, he's just walking around the area?
At all the houses.
Okay.
Now he's just staring at me.
Okay, and you said it's 1111 Retreat View or 111?
That's the clubhouse.
That's the clubhouse. Do you know what he's near the clubhouse right now?
Yeah, now he's coming towards me.
Okay.
He's got his hand in his waistband. And he's a black male.
Okay. How old would you say he was?
He's got a button on his shirt. Late teens.
Late teens, okay.
Something's wrong with him. Yeah. He's coming to check me out. He's got something in his hands. I don't know what his deal is.
Okay, just let me know if he does anything, okay? Yeah, we got him on the way. Just let me know if this guy does anything else.
Okay. These assholes, they always get away. Yeah. When you come to the clubhouse, you come straight in and make a left. Actually, you go past the clubhouse.
Okay, it says on the left-hand side from the clubhouse?
No, you go in straight through the entrance, and then you make a left. Yeah, you go straight in, don't turn and make a left. Shit, he's running.
He's running? Which way is he running?
Down towards the entrance of the neighborhood.
Okay, which entrance is that he's heading towards?
The back entrance.
Are you following him?
Yeah.
Okay, we don't need you to do that.
Okay.
All right, sir, what is your name?
George. He ran.
All right, George, what's your last name?
Zimmerman.
And George, what's the phone number you're calling from?
407-435-2400.
All right, George, we do have him on the way. Do you want to meet with the officer when they get out there?
Yeah.
All right, where are you going to meet with them at?
If they come in through the gate, tell them to go straight past the clubhouse and straight past the clubhouse and make a left. And then they go past the mailboxes. You'll see my truck.
Okay, what address are you parked in front of?
I don't know. It's a cut through, so I don't know the address.
Okay, do you live in the area?
Yeah.
What's your apartment number?
It's a home. It's 1950. Oh, crap. I don't want to give it aloud. I don't know where this kid is.
Okay, do you want to just be with them right near the mailboxes then?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, George, I'll let him know to meet you with the guy.
Actually, could you have him call me and I'll tell him where I'm at?
Okay, yeah, that's no problem.
You need my number or you got it?
Yeah, I got it. 407-435-2400.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, no problem. I'll let them know to call you when they're in the area.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Ms. Benjamin, I played the whole thing because you indicated you had not heard that, correct? Is that the first time hearing it?
That's the first time I've heard the whole thing, but I realized that I have heard some bits and pieces as part of news.
All right, so you had heard parts of it through the news?
Yes.
Okay. And do you recall at this time what parts you heard of that?
Perhaps the part where he was trying to give an address.
Okay, all right. But I'm assuming you recognize at least one of the voices on there.
Absolutely.
And that is definitely George Zimmerman, correct?
Definitely.
No dispute
George,
in your mind?
No dispute
Okay.
in my
And
mind.
when you listen to it now, could you tell that there was a change in his voice in terms of he appeared to be excited or doing something besides just a normal monotone?
To me, it sounds maybe like he's walking outside and perhaps
Okay.
Winded or it's windy.
Or maybe even running. Right?
I don't know.
You weren't there, but
No.
I'm just going on based on his voice. His voice does change. You acknowledge when, after he says he's running, and then you acknowledge that Mr. Zimmerman's voice does change, correct?
Yes, it seems to change.
Right? And in fact, you heard some profanity there, didn't you?
I
I'm not asking you to
didn't
repeat
pick it
it.
out. I don't know.
You want me to play that part again? I'm not asking you to repeat it, please. I'm not.
Perhaps.
Okay.
But, well, go ahead.
Okay. Well, he used, pardon my language, he used these assholes always get away. You recall hearing that?
I don't recall hearing that.
Do you want me to play it again? I don't mean to.
No.
Okay. Well, do you acknowledge that his voice changes in when he's speaking to
It sounds like maybe the environment he's in changed to me more.
Okay, so he's moving.
Like he might be walking, or it might be windy.
Okay. But would you acknowledge, and the reason I asked you, because you mentioned you had heard his voice change on prior occasions when he was,
Yes.
I think you described whooping it up like celebrating, correct?
Yes.
Is that what you were making reference to
Yes.
in that campaign?
Yes.
When you and a bunch of other people were there, you know, I think you used the word whooping it up or getting excited, correct?
Yes.
So you acknowledge that in this conversation that you heard between Mr. Zimmerman and the 911 or non-emergency operator that his voice does change in somewhat manner.
Yes.
Okay.
Not like the pep rally.
Well, he's not going, hey, right? He's not screaming.
Correct. His voice seems more matter of fact to me.
And this one?
Yes.
Okay.
Then
you don't notice? Go ahead. I apologize.
well, it just seems to me that it may have been outside
Sure.
while he's walking, or it's windy or
Sure.
something.
All right. Well, can you play I'm going to play a part for you because and obviously you weren't there, so.
Correct.
I'm
I
just
was
asking
not
you-
there.
Just asking you based on the voice, on Mr. Zimmerman's voice, I want to play one snippet of it for you that you heard.
These assholes, they always get away.
You recall hearing that now? Were you able to
Yes.
hear it clearly?
Yes.
You agree that his voice does change there, correct?
No.
You don't think it changes from what he was saying before? I know the words were changed. I'm talking about, you don't think his voice inflection changes at all?
Not necessarily right there.
Okay. And then, you recall hearing this?
He goes straight in, don't turn and make a left. Shit, he's running.
He's running. Which way is he running?
Down towards the entrance of the neighborhood.
Okay. Which entrance is that he's heading towards?
The back entrance.
So you heard the defendant say, pardon my language, do this. If I could, may I approach a witness, Your Honor? And
Yes, you may.
I'm going to get closer to you. I'm going to put it right in front of you. If you want, we can get you some headphones if you need. I just want to make sure. Well, let me play it again and then just focus on what was being
Okay.
said.
So you want me to pay attention to more what he was saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Than the background noise,
Yeah.
whether it's wind or he's walking?
Right, or he's running, yes.
Yeah, he goes straight in, don't turn and make a left. Shit, he's running.
He's running. Which way is he running?
Down towards the entrance of the neighborhood.
Okay. Which entrance is that he's heading towards?
The back entrance.
Can you hear it now?
Yes.
Okay, so you heard shitty's running.
Yes.
And then you heard additional language, these
Yes.
effing punks.
Yes.
Did you hear that?
Yes.
Okay, and you would agree that there's also background noise?
Yes, and that
Right.
seems to be between where he said that I'm running, or he's running.
Right, okay.
And the next thing he says.
Right.
That it sounds like either wind picked up or he was walking to me.
All right. But you agree that he's uttering that in terms of he's trying to follow somebody or do whatever? Or you weren't
No,
there?
I don't take it that way at all. I think he was just observing.
Okay. So he's just observing and making. That he's following or observing?
We object, if I might, for speculation, Your Honor.
Overruled.
May I be heard at the bench? I may have the question read back. I thought he was asking for what?
We can have the question read back if you need it read back, but no need to approach the bench.
So it's just as a making a comment that part of my language concerning with these fucking punks. That's an observation in your mind when he's referencing the person that he's following or observing.
And I renew my request that there's speculation as to what the speaker of the words was thinking.
So no speaking objections, and based upon her previous answer, the objection is over.
I think it was a comment he was making.
About the individual he was following or chasing, correct?
I don't know how to answer that. I think he was just making an observation at the beginning. He may have had a comment to make.
Okay. But you agree
But
that...
I don't think he was in an extremely excited state at that point, based on my experience with him.
Okay, all right. And you did something when you listened to that.
I closed my eyes.
You closed your eyes. Did you close your eyes when you listened to the other 911 recording originally?
Originally, no.
So this time you really wanted to focus on what was being said and who was uttering it, so you closed your eyes. The first time when you were watching, you were doing stuff around the house, so you didn't close your eyes. You weren't prepared for it, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, are you saying that in those campaign things and all? Okay. So you agree there's a distinction, correct?
Distinction between...
In terms of that language that was being used?
Well, yes.
Okay. And you heard the part already, you clearly made out the other language, part of my language. These assholes always get away, correct?
I heard that.
Okay. And his voice didn't change at all there?
It may have been starting to change a little bit, but I think that he was commenting and giving out, or trying to give out, information.
About the person he was observing?
Yes.
Okay. And so, in other words, based on what you observed and based on his knowledge of hearing his voice, you believe he was just making comment like,
I heard those words, but I don't think it was in a heightened state of alert. I think it was just more conveying information.
just like an observation, like I would say, Joe, and refer to some profanity when I refer to Joe, right? Just like an everyday observation of somebody.
Yes, I've heard that before.
Right? Usually it's expressing some kind of anger, isn't it?
Not necessarily.
So it's a complimentary term?
Not necessarily. But I have encountered people who use language like that in a conversation, and it doesn't necessarily come across to me as angry or excited, just conversation.
Like a matter of fact?
Especially with my kids.
Okay. With your kids?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, in terms of, you're talking about, okay, I don't mean to get personal in terms of, you're talking about...
Well, when cussing.
Okay, all right. Profanity.
It does not always indicate that there's, you know, an alarming situation.
But it could.
Yes, it could, but in this situation, it did not to me.
And that's all you can go on because you weren't there. But you agree. I apologize. I cut you off. You finishing?
Yes.
Okay. Did I interrupt you?
I don't know. Go ahead and ask another question.
Okay. My question is, you agree that in this case, based on what you heard, he was observing somebody and he was making comments about the individual he's observing, right?
Yes, or about the situation.
Or about the situation, and he's wanting to make sure the person doesn't get away.
I don't know that. I think he was just reporting on what he saw.
Okay, so the bottom line is you believe he was just making an observation, a report in terms of using those words to describe the person he's reporting about.
Yes.
Okay. Now, why, when he was originally asked about the individual and asked in terms of what's his race, he referred making an observation.
When you're done.
Okay, what's your objection?
Speculation.
Sustained.
I have no further questions.
Thank you. Any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. That's okay. Thanks, though. All right. Thank you. Morning again. So now you've heard the second tape.
Yes.
You had not heard that before in its entirety?
Correct.
Okay. Now that you've had a listen, can you tell me anywhere in that tape where you heard George Zimmerman speaking in an angry way?
No.
In a way that evidenced to you that he had ill will or spite?
No.
That he was acting with hatred for whoever may have been the subject of his conversation?
No.
When you heard Mr. Zimmerman use the term assholes, did you interpret it that he was saying it the same way that Mr. Delarianda just said it in his questions?
No.
Tell the jury, if you would, how you noticed the difference between the way Mr. Delarianda just said it to you and how you heard Mr. Mr. Zimmerman say it.
It seemed to me like Mr. Delarianda was trying to highlight it, make it sound heightened, and I don't feel that it was that way at all.
And
I think it was more a statement of a comment.
You mentioned that you have children?
Yes, I have two sons.
Their ages?
30 and 33.
Okay. In conversations with them, have you heard them use such words as, and let me premise this, in a courtroom, we're bound by the evidence, so when the evidence is curse words, we use the curse words that we, just so you're knowing why I'm just questioning you about curses, okay? Have you heard your sons use words like assholes before?
Yes, I have.
The word shit, have you heard that before?
Yes, I have.
Does that always connote anger, ill will, spite, and hatred?
Not at all.
And do you think it did from listening to George Zimmerman's voice in this recording?
Not at all.
You heard the words, and you closed your eyes. Why did you close your eyes to listen to that tape?
Since I had been asked about a question and Mr. Delarianda asked or said something about running, I was trying to listen very carefully to see if I could hear that.
Okay. And was it only
I didn't hear it the first time it was played.
Describe for the jury the difference that you noticed.
Mr. Zimmerman said it more as a matter-of-fact kind of casual comment type thing. And I got the feeling Mr. Delariondo, while I could hear it in his voice was louder and he was highlighting those words.
When you were talking about this change in voice, were you indicating to the jury that you believed that it was apparent that George changed his emotional status or just his location?
Not at all. It seemed more locational, perhaps that he was walking or it was windy.
Was there ever a time in that you thought that the tape evidenced that Mrs. Zimmerman was acting in an angry way?
Not at all.
So when asked the question by Mr. Delarionda, did you hear, I'm just not going to keep repeating, but did you hear those words being yelled by Mrs. Zimmerman in a campaign event? I think you said no.
No.
But you have in fact heard him yell, or maybe
Absolutely.
happy yelling.
Yes.
During a campaign.
Yes.
Vote for us, vote for my guy.
Yes.
Down with the other guy.
Pep rallies and such.
Matter of fact, that's sort of part of a campaign, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Try to get everyone motivated.
Get everybody excited and motivated. So yes, I have heard him in that setting.
And is that part of the experience level you bring to your testimony here today, having heard Mrs. Zimmerman scream, even though in a happy way?
Yes.
Of course, you've never heard him scream for his life before, have you?
No.
But you did hear him on that 911 call?
Yes, I did.
We talked about, or you were asked about the continuous nature of the calling. I'm going to posit two different possibilities to see if we can vet through that a little bit.
Sure.
If I were to scream one scream over the next, till my breath ran out, 30 seconds, compare that to if I were to scream in segments, sort of with a cadence. Do you know what that is?
I say that it sounds more like that.
Which one?
The second one.
More like several screams in cadence?
Yes.
Okay. Maybe times for breathing in between?
Yes.
Objection, bleeding.
Nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Any?
Very briefly, Your Honor. I was speaking louder so you could make sure you heard the words. You're saying that Mr. Zimmerman, since he was aware he was being recorded, was uttering it under his breath, correct?
I don't know about that.
Well,
I think he was just talking.
Right, but you agree that the effing punks, it's profanity, the first word, I'm trying not to repeat it, was uttered under his breath, in other words, because he knew he was being recorded.
I don't know that at all.
The second half of that's speculation.
Sustained.
You agree that it was hard, difficult to hear it, the effing and then punks. You agree to that, correct?
I heard it.
I had to play it for you a few times, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Any redirect?
Good question. If you wanted to say something, you were on a phone call with somebody, let's say that you knew it was being recorded. So if you wanted to say something under your breath to make sure it wasn't recorded, what would you do with the phone that was at your mouth?
I'd take it away from my head.
Nothing further.
Okay, thank you. May Ms. Benjamin be excused?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you very much. You are excused. It is 11:25. Do you want a break or go straight through to lunch?
We're good.
They're good. Call your next witness.
Doris Singleton, Your Honor. I'm sorry, Your Honor. May I switch up my...
Sure.
Thank you. No, take care of that. I can record for just a second.
Yes, you may.
Greg Warmoth along with